When they attack black people after they've been murdered, when they did absolutely nothing wrong, you're pushing us to the limit. And what do I mean by that? You're asking us to talk about history, the history of the South. This is in Georgia. What happened in Georgia? There were savages in Georgia. It was the ancestors of the white right-wingers. They were absolute savages. They murdered people, they lynched people, they raped people, they enslaved people. They took babies from their mothers and sold them as property. You want to talk about savages? Your ancestors were the biggest savages the world has ever seen. So don't you dare call a black man a savage after you murdered him. Don't you dare do that. I'm so sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers in the South, who has hundreds of years of history of being savages. Savages. They snatched babies and they sold them as property and they raped their mothers. Savages. That's what they were. You want to talk about stereotypes? Screw all of you who still defend that Confederacy, that monstrosity. Anyone who defends that is a barbaric savage.
All whites are racist. Can you expound on that, please?
Any white person who was born, raised, and schooled in the United States of America, if you aren't a racist, you're a miracle. Either that or you decided to educate yourself. Because education in this country is about white is right, brown's all right, black's got to stand back. Yellow's mellow, but whites, we educate in a way that says that white males have done all the adventures, have made all the adventures, have done all the discovering, have made everything that is good and has been accomplished according to social studies, which is actually anti-social studies, by white males. It's a lie. But we do that in order to maintain the myth of white superiority. The myth of race has to be maintained at all costs in this country. Because if white people have to give up the color of their skin as being something that makes them perfect, what do they have left? If we start teaching the truth about history, if we start teaching about Nile Valley contributions to civilization, it will totally change the way we conduct ourselves in the classroom. It will have to. Columbus didn't discover America. You can't discover a place where people are already living. But we celebrate that every October. It's a lie. We need to get over, we need to stop telling the myths and start telling the truth.
So when you tell people that they're racist, and it must have some kind of effect, because most people will say, I'm not racist.
I'm not a racist. Why, some of my best friends are black.
Right.
Yeah, and then you say, name one. Or this one, I don't see color. And when some woman says to me, I don't see color, I say, I knew that. If you saw color, you wouldn't dye your hair that way. Or I say, if you saw color, you wouldn't wear that shirt with those pants. I believe that you don't see color. It's an attempt to deny skin color. And it's an attempt to deny what's wrong with seeing the color of my skin. Is it all right for you to see me kind of pink? That's okay for me. I don't mind. And I suspect that you don't mind being seen the color you are. You have a right to be what you are. And until people in this country and people in this world get it into their heads that the first modern human beings that evolved on this earth were black women. They evolved in sub-Saharan Africa about 280,000 years ago. And every human being on the face of the earth today has the memory of those black women's genetic structure in their genes. Now, we don't want to admit that, but that's the way it is. And as people moved farther and farther from the equator, their bodies produced less and less melanin, so their hair, their skin, and their eyes got lighter. As they moved into the east, they ate a lot of fish and a lot of vegetables, so their skin took on a different tone. I found that out when I was raising little kids. My husband worked in a supermarket. He was the head of the produce department. And they had lots of oranges that they couldn't sell, so he'd bring them home. And I was feeding my kids orange juice like you never saw in your life. They began to have an orange cast to their skin. I thought they had a liver problem. So I took him to the doctor, and she said, what are you feeding these kids? I said, Well, lots of orange juice. She said stop it if you wanted to stop being orange. Now, if you think that skin color isn't anything other than the body's natural reaction to the natural environment, get over it.
So, if all white people are racist, according to you, can they be reprogrammed?
Of course they can. Of course they can. Of
How?
course they can be. It's called education. I'm an educator. The word educator comes from the root duc dus, which means lead, the prefix e, which means out, the suffix ate, which means the act of, and the suffix or, which means one who does. An educator is one who is engaged in the act of leading people.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel once again. Finally guys, the truth is coming out. The more the white folks, they are trying to hide the truth from us black people, it is the more the truth keeps on unveiling itself. In today's video, we are going to see this white man. He came out and pissed off his fellow white people for coming out and exposing the hidden truth that white folks they have been hiding. He's coming out and revealed to us what happened in Georgia, how the white folks they have been treating black people starting from the days of slavery. So kindly guys, I want you to watch this video till the end, then I'll be back with more comment. All credits goes to the original creator of the video. I'm your host, Dash Lifestyle. Remember, this video it is only for educational purposes. Kindly give this video a thumbs up.
The young lady said she's afraid of violence. And isn't it sad that we who have been the victims of so much violence, now whites fear violence from us? We do not have a history of killing white people. White people have a history of killing us. See? And what you fear, may I say this, sir? What you fear, and it's a deep guilt thing that white folks suffer. You are afraid that if we ever come to power, we will do to you and your fathers what you and your people have done to us. And I think you are judging us by the state of your own mind, and that is not necessarily the mind of black people.
White people are the laziest exploiters in history, and the receipts are endless. White people love to posture as the architects of civilization, the hardest working people to ever grace the earth. But the historical record says otherwise. They have never built anything without forcing other people to do the labor. From the plantations of the Americas to the factories of the Industrial Revolution, from colonial conquests to modern corporate exploitation, the white ruling classes have perfected the art of avoiding real work while reaping the rewards of stolen labor. They enslaved millions rather than farming their own land. They looted entire continents rather than develop their own resources. They forced children into dangerous factories while sitting in boardrooms. They built entire economic systems around wage theft and inherited wealth. And today they still live off the spoils of past and present exploitation while calling everyone else lazy. The backbone of white economic dominance wasn't ingenuity or effort. It was forced labor on a global scale. The transatlantic slave trade was born because white landowners refused to till their own soil. European empires enslaved millions rather than build self-sufficient societies. Plantation owners in the US and Caribbean sat in mansions while enslaved Africans worked from dawn to dusk. After abolition, they created sharecropping, tenant farming, and debt peonage to keep non-white people working for free. Translation: white people never built their own economies. They just stole bodies to do it for them. If they were really the world's hardest workers, why did they need millions of enslaved people to do all the labor? It wasn't just labor they avoided. They refused to even create the conditions for labor. They stole land from indigenous peoples rather than develop their own agricultural systems. They plundered Africa, India, and Southeast Asia for raw materials instead of just producing their own. They extracted wealth from colonies while leaving the native people in poverty. They still live off stolen land and resources to this day, while pretending like their wealth comes from hard work. White civilization isn't built on innovation or industriousness. It's built on wholesale theft, followed by smug self-congratulation. When forced labor became less convenient, white elites turned to a whole new class of unpaid workers, their own children. Factories in 19th century England forced children as young as 5 into 16-hour shifts. Coal mines sent white children through tunnels while their fathers drank in pubs. U.S. textile mills worked children to the bone because paying adults was too expensive. White elites lounged in drawing rooms while their own children hacked up soot in mills. If they were such hard workers, why did they need to enslave children to keep their industries running? Slavery and child labor wasn't enough. White business owners then created an entire economic system to keep avoiding work. They paid starvation wages while raking in profits. They passed anti-union laws so workers could not demand fair pay. They relied on immigrant labor, such as Chinese, Mexican, and Caribbean, instead of working hard themselves. They offshored modern labor to the global south, while sitting in air-conditioned offices. And the scam continues. They call themselves job creators while hoarding wealth. They whine about immigrants taking jobs they refuse to do. They pretend finance is hard work, while laborers break their back to survive. White economies aren't built on sweat and toil. They're built on avoiding actual work while leeching off of the working class. After centuries of exploitation, white elites don't even bother to pretend working anymore. They inherited land and businesses built on slave labor. They used nepotism to secure wealth while demanding others pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They take credit for building businesses that their grandfathers stole. They retire early while calling minimum wage workers lazy. They work from home while demanding service workers commute for $12 an hour. They vacation in stolen wealth while mocking the poor for wanting basic housing. They flip houses instead of contributing to their communities. They act like trading stocks is a job while calling actual labor unskilled. If white people built their own wealth, why does so much of it come from inheritance, exploitation, and stolen land? The truth is in the history books, but white people would rather avoid reading those too. Cope.
Let me say that again. The whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real, right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people to kill. We just killed each other, right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count. That's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another or they're going to rise up and take our stuff, right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people, right? So ultimately the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans, right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness and they say, now you're part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court, enter into contracts, vote, at least if you're a man, own a little bit of land, at least if you're a man, right? And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude. No more of that because you're too good for that. And we're going to take the white men, now called white men, and put them on the slave patrol to keep black people in line. Give them a horse and a gun and a badge and make them feel big and powerful, right? They're still poor. They still don't have anything. They didn't pay the slave patrol well, right? Just exploited them, used them as a buffer between the elite and the other poor folks, particularly poor folks of color. And pretty soon, the rebellions that occasionally happened where black and white got together to overthrow the elite, those stopped because the divide and conquer had begun to work, right? You could turn people against each other by telling those poor white folks, they got to keep these black people in line. And so that divide and conquer gets initiated in the colonies. Rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. Fast forward to the Civil War era. And you have, I'm from the South, right? My people, the elite in my part of the country, right, actually announced that the reason they wanted to break away from the Union and possibly go to war with their brothers and sisters to the North was in order to maintain slavery and white supremacy. They said that at the time. We lie about it now. And we say it had nothing to do with that. But of course, at the time, they didn't have any shame about it, so they just said it openly, right? The vice president of the Confederacy, Alexander Stephens, said that the cornerstone of the new government was the great truth that the Negro was not the equal of the white man. So that's the reason the Confederacy was formed and existed. But here's the trick. If I'm rich and I want to go to war to protect my ownership in other human beings, my property, but you're poor and you don't own any enslaved people, why the hell would you go fight to protect my stuff? Because I'm a rich person. I'm not going to fight. Rich people don't go to war, right? Rich people get poor people to go to war for them, whether it's in 1860 or whether it's during the 1960s or whether it's today, right? Rich folks get doctors to write notes for them that say that they have heel spurs and that's why they can't go to Vietnam. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you can Google that shit because he's sitting in the White House right now, right? Well, I can't go fight. I have heel spurs. Send some poor kids to do that for me, please, right? So that's been a long-standing tradition. So the rich have to figure out a way to convince the poor to go fight for them. But that's a hard thing. That's like a hard sell, right? Like how the hell, why would you do that? Why would you go fight to protect my property rights when you don't own anything? The only way you would do it is if that rich person comes to you and says, hey, listen, you gotta go fight. Because we got to maintain our way of life, because if these people get free, they're going to take your jobs. No, fool, they already got your job. That's how it works, right? Because if I'm white and I got to charge you $1 a day to work on the farm, but you can get a black person to do it for nothing because you own them, guess who got the job? Free got the job, right? So in a sense, poor white folks would have been better off joining with black folks to overthrow the slave system. That would have raised the wage floor of all working people. But they got tricked by rich white men telling them that their enemies were black and brown. Fast forward to the 1930s. And you have white labor leaders. They're not even the elite, right? The labor leaders are not the elite, but they're the elite within the labor movement. And even they had fallen for it at this point. So they didn't want to integrate their unions. And they would say things like, well, we can't have black people and Mexicans and Chinese folks in our unions because if we do that, it's going to reduce the professionalism of our craft. We have to maintain the integrity of our profession. No, fool, you need more people in the damn union is what you need. And if you don't let those folks in, guess what happens when you go out on strike? Who is the boss going to use to replace you? They're going to replace you with the very same black and brown folks that you didn't want to work next to, right? And so at the end of and then you're going to blame them for taking your job rather than the white rich dude for giving it to them, right? Divide and conquer. Telling not rich white folks that their enemies are black and brown. And now we fast forward to the president. We got the president of the United States becoming president on the basis of that same rhetoric. Telling not rich white folks that the reason they don't have a job is because Mexicans took them. Right? That's the argument. Keep in mind, there's been a net outflow of Mexican folk from this country, out of this country in the last 10 years. Right now, border crossings and actual in-migration at the lowest level they've been since the 1970s. So anybody who believes that is a damn fool, or somebody who does not understand how to do research on the internet, or someone who doesn't care, right? But he says the reason you don't have a job is those brown folks.
You're pushing us to the limit. And what do I mean by that? You're asking us to talk about history, the history of the South. This is in Georgia. What happened in Georgia? There were savages in Georgia. It was the ancestors of the white right-wingers. They were absolute savages. They murdered people, they lynched people, they raped people, they enslaved people. They took babies from their mothers and sold them as property. You want to talk about savages? Your ancestors were the biggest savages the world has ever seen. And so don't you dare call a black man a savage after you murdered him. Don't you dare do that. I'm so sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers of the South, who has hundreds of years of history of being savages. Savages!
Let's talk about this story out of South Africa because it says everything about hypocrisy and white supremacy. A white farm owner and his workers are on trial for allegedly murdering 2 black women who were unarmed, women who were simply collecting old dairy products. And after they allegedly murdered them, they fed their bodies to pigs. Think about that for a second. They fed their bodies, human beings, to animals. The part that pisses me off the most with this is these are the same kind of people who look at black folks in Africa or America or anywhere else and call us savages. But tell me this, what is more savage than shooting 2 hungry women and then treating their bodies like trash? What's more barbaric than covering it up by feeding their bodies to animals? This isn't just a crime. This is a reflection of a long, ugly history. If you remember, colonizers stole land, they massacred villages, and they called it civilization. Slave masters whipped, raped, and lynched black bodies, and then had church the next morning. Apartheid made people strangers on their own land. And then when we resisted, they called us violent. See the pattern? Whenever black people act out of survival, we're branded as criminals. When white supremacists murder in cold blood, it's protecting property. It's isolated. It's lost in the news cycle somehow. And then you got politicians like Trump who push this lie of a so-called genocide against white farmers while ignoring the everyday violence against black South Africans. That's not just hypocrisy. That's propaganda trying to flip the script and make the oppressor the victim. You want to know the truth? Black people are not savages. What's in our blood is resilience, creativity, and survival against all odds. But what's in their history, their very foundation of white supremacy, is violence, exploitation, and the dehumanization of others. That's the real savagery. So the next time someone dares to point the finger at us, remind them, we didn't invent this cycle of brutality. They did. And we've been surviving it, exposing it, and rising above it for centuries. Now let me ask you this. When are we going to let them stop defining the narrative and start forcing the world to see the truth for what it is?
I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret about white people. Every single white person knows somebody who is racist. Racist towards black people, racist towards Spanish people. We all know somebody. It might be our family member, it might be a distant relative, it might be a coworker, it might be an old friend, but we all know somebody. Personally, I come from a whole family of racist people. Yeah, my entire family is Republican too, okay? My dad's parents are racist, and my mom's parents are racist. Okay, so I'm literally going against everything by talking about this. I am putting my own life on the line by speaking about this, and that's what we all should be doing. See, we could have ended this a long time ago, but people like my mom listened to these racist comments that their parents were making and didn't speak out against it. They kept their mouths shut, or they agreed with them silently, you know? But they didn't do anything about it. They continue to let this be passed on generation after generation. Oh, my mom never told me or taught me any racist ideologies. She continued to let it happen because she didn't speak out against it when her parents were talking about it or my dad's parents were talking. So if you are against racism and you are against discrimination and you're a white person, you need to speak out about it. Otherwise, you are allowing this to continue generation after generation, and you are just as much a part of.
So guys, I hope you have watched that video and you have seen how the white folks, they have come out and reveal their hidden secret. You know, right now I'm so happy to see the people who are really coming out and reveal their hidden secret. It is not the black folks, it is the white folks who are coming out and revealing their own dirty secrets towards black people. You know, for a very long time we have been seeing how these white folks, they have been treating black people in America, in the Caribbean, in Africa. We have been seeing how these people, they have been calling our African country third world country. You have been seeing how they have been painting a bad image towards Africa. But the people who are really made Africa to become poor, the people who are really made our people living in Africa to die with hunger, it is because of them. That the ones who are really making Africa to be the third world country. They are taking our resources, they are taking, they are building their country with African resources, and yet they are calling our African country third world country. And also we have been seeing how they have been treating our fellow black people in America. We have been seeing how the challenges and the struggle that black Americans, they have been going through, because whenever something bad it is really happening in America, the first suspect, they usually suspect a black person. You have come out and see what the first a white man, he has come out and reveal exactly what happened in Georgia. So he has come out and revealed the truth. These people, they have been doing bad things and are claiming it is the black folks who have really come out and do. But right now, I'm so happy to see they are exposing themselves. You know, right now they are exposing themselves. And right now, it is now the time for these people to come out and repent, because if they will not repent, their country, it is falling down. So kindly guys, I want to read some of the comment here and see what our fellow black people, they have come out and say in the comment section. So this one is saying that they used to use babies and as alligator, but in Florida looks it up. So this one is saying that black people built America hands down. Exactly, the people who really build America, it is the black people. If it wasn't the effort and the struggle of the black people, America won't be where it is right now. So this one is saying that, wow, is absolutely correct. Who is the real savage? Yeah, so this one is saying that I'm so glad the world is starting to hold them accountable. This is a start. Yeah, right now the world is telling them that is revealing their hidden secret. So this one saying that the first guy speaking big fact. This one saying that they are only rich because of everything they stole. Yeah, these people, they are rich because of everything they stole. In fact, they are America, the land or America, they stole. Yeah, they stole the land, America. So these people, all they are living is a lie. Yeah, these people, they are rich because of stealing things. They stole from Africa, the resources, the things that they are using in their country, they are building with their country, the resources from Africa. So these people, they know it is stealing. So this one saying that they are only rich because of everything they stole. Yeah, I've already read that. So this one saying that people are waking up. Exactly. People are waking up. So this one saying that the first guy is so sad and true, not by us, but to us. Let that sink in. This one saying that speak that truth, man. Tell the history of black being oppressed. Yeah. So these black folks, they want the first man to come out and tell us the history of black, how the white folks, they have been oppressing black people in America. So this one is saying that they used black babies as alligators, bait, and gutted black pregnant women as well, and raped young black children. Slavery was more heinous and evil than people knew about. The reason why they are removing the truth in books about the history of slavery from off-shelves, museum, and learning institution. This one saying that what about their savage annihilation of the indigenous people of the American and Africa? This was saying that I just found a new respect for this guy. This one saying that don't call them devil for nothing. This one saying that don't call them devil for nothing. This one is saying that I give our babies for bait for alligators as well. So you can see they have been using the black babies for alligator. They don't want even to mention. So this one saying that not only did they brutally and savagely unalived black people, they cut up black people bodies, cooked them and ate them. They created a recipe for cooking black people body parts. If that's not the biologically savage, I don't know what is. So you can see some of the things that they did towards black people. So this is saying that tell the truth and shame the devil. This should be on every network. Praise the true Lord of heaven. Amen. This one saying that it wasn't only in Georgia, but West Virginia, South Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, Virginia, Alabama, Kansas, Kentucky, etc. So these are these cities that bad things have been happening towards the black force. This one is saying that he's not white. He is of a different descent of brown people. He is an amazing man. Yeah, so this one is saying that they have done so much evil to us for 400 years. Keep it up, bro. We cannot be savage. So this one saying that not only to black, but also to Native Indians and 1882 the Chinese Exclusion Act too. This one saying that, well, okay, when we say it's fall on deaf eyes, he said that with his whole chest. So this one is saying that it don't matter if he is not white, he is still speaking truth and fact, and we see it regardless. History and real research is there for you all day long for you to know what he is saying in real. Yeah, so this one saying that God don't sleep, payback time. Fact, just let that sit on your spirit. So you can see majority of people, they are really telling this white man to come to continue telling us the hidden truth. This was saying that America was built on the backs of black Americans. Slave from the south to the north, slavery gave white people the right to sell our children. Check America history. This one saying that great video, sir, thank you. So this one saying that worst thing I felt when an African called me a cotton picker and they glorify the white man. I felt betrayed because I never seen Africans as my enemy but as a brother, but that only a few. I met many amazing work Africa. I barely can call brother, but until this message is known a wide scale, we can't rest. Peace and love. Yeah, so guys, we want to share this message so that majority of people can know these hidden things that these people that have been doing towards black people. So kindly guys, you need to like. When you like this video, according to the YouTube algorithm, will recommend this video to a lot of people and they will see this video. And also share it, subscribe if you haven't. So this one is saying that they call us savage because when they use aggression to harm us, we are physically stronger and quicker. So they use manipulation and our empathy against us. Yeah, so these people, they saw black people, they are very strong. They cannot fight with black people. So what they came out and do, they use they confuse us black people. They turn us to hate on each other, to fight ourselves. And that's why I really want this message to reach out to a lot of black people so that they can know and learning. They can start learning to love their fellow brothers. They can start to respect their fellow brothers and sisters, and giving also the support to their fellow black people. So this one is saying that I live in the state of Georgia and I am 86 years old and I know about slavery in the state of Georgia. I know about the white and black water fountain. If you went to a restaurant to buy something to eat, you have to be on one side of the building at a window to order your food to go and the so-called white who was ordering food was on the other side of the building at a window that was for white only, and you couldn't see on the inside of the window. The white only could sitting down on the inside to eat. Yeah, so kindly guys, you have see what it was happening in Georgia. So kindly guys, subscribe if you haven't, like this video, share, and also comment. See you on my next one. Bye bye guys.